This month, English Heritage are urging visitors to the ancient monastic sites they look after to enjoy an hour of contemplation as they wander around the ruins. You might want to chat to the family or catch up on your phone calls, but take a step back, center yourself, and focus on appreciating the peace and tranquility that is unique to these historic buildings, said one of English Heritage's property historians last week. Now, historical purists may object that medieval monasteries were actually rather busy places whose inhabitants would have been focused more on sustaining life in unforgiving conditions than on wandering around listening to the birdsong and enjoying the spectacular views. But let's resist the impetus to carp. Let's rejoice in English Heritage's experiment. That it's even being tried suggests that the notion of sacred space, or at least of special space, continues to have currency today. And as we celebrate the dedication festival of our sacred space, we might ask what the notion means for us. The readings for Evensong suggest two lines of thought that we might explore. The first is that holy places exist to point us to the holiness of all places. Jeremiah understands that it is God's presence that makes the temple holy, not the gold or cedar wood with which it is adorned, not the psalms recited in its courtyards, and not the sacrifices offered on its altars. Where God dwells is holy. And the visit of Jesus to the house of Zacchaeus, in the visit of Jesus to the house of Zacchaeus, we are reminded that where God dwells knows no bounds. God dwells in the Holy of Holies on Mount Zion, but God also dwells in the house of a chief tax collector who has enriched himself at the expense of his neighbors. There is nowhere that God is not present, for God has spoken all things into being. All things. It's just that you and I tend to overlook this. Like Zacchaeus, like Jeremiah's countrymen, we look at what surrounds us and think of how we may turn it to our advantage. Holy places recall us to this pig-headed short-sightedness. We dedicate holy places. We mark out their boundaries. We speak particular words over them. We perform particular acts in them. We do all this as a way of reminding ourselves and of reminding all people that God's presence fills all places, and that all our words are spoken in his hearing, and that all our acts are performed in his sight. The second line of thought is that the measure of the holiness of a place is the holiness of those who pass through it. Jeremiah complains of those who recite mantra-like, "This is the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord," and who at the same time oppress the poor, murder the innocent, and indulge in idolatrous worship. Clearly, the sacred space is not having any impact on those who assert their love of it and claim its protection. It is not increasing their patience, their wisdom, their self-control, or their love. I hope this is not to carp, particularly given what I've already said, but the contemporary enthusiasm for mindfulness, of which English heritage are no doubt aware, is based upon the benefits its practice will bring. It will make you a better student or a more effective professional. The holiness that holy places grows in us may make us those things, but it may not. We do not know what became of Zacchaeus. He drops out of the gospel story after this cameo. But from a Roman perspective, it's very unlikely that his change of heart made him a better tax collector. Their revenue will no doubt have dropped away dramatically. Holiness will change us, but not necessarily in ways that our teachers or our employers will welcome. So, holy places exist to point us to the holiness of all places. The measure of their holiness is the holiness of those who pass through them. We love Eliot's description of a place where prayer has been valid. We forget that in the same breath he insists first that there are other places. Some at the sea jaws or over a dark lake, in a desert or a city, he writes. And second, that we arrive at them not to marvel, but to kneel.